and welcome to this video. Thank you so much for tuning in and sharing this now moment with myself and with one another. For those of you who haven't seen these videos before, welcome. Welcome back if you have seen them. I just got done with an amazing session with a beautiful light worker, and I'm just in such a beautiful flow right now. I just kind of wanted to tap into these energies and share them with you guys. And so I'll just back up for a moment and say that, of course, my intention is always that these videos be for the highest benevolence for all and the highest levels of love light. And my intention with all of these videos is to assist in raising the frequency and the vibration with one another and on Mother Earth. And so a few questions I'll just address before moving into this video. When I'm sharing this energy, it's already here. We're in that space. What happens is, as I share these energies, they kind of come through into your field, so to speak, because there is no barrier. There is energy, basically is everywhere. And so just by setting my intention and connecting with my higher guidance team, you have a higher guidance team, we've all got one. Mine it consists, as yours does as well, with several guides that I've agreed to come and assist me, that have been living on the earth plane in their past existences or future existences. They also consist of angelics or archangelics, or galactic beings of love light. They exist. It comes from beings from Sirius and Arcturus and Lyra and the Pleiades and Andromeda and many other places that I'm not even really in that place of clearly stating, which I will eventually. And the messages that come through always, or it doesn't matter where it's coming from. Oftentimes we get hung up on, is my history, is my ancestry from Egypt? And, one of the biggest messages that comes through when I work with beings is we're clearing energy from perhaps specific existences and specific timelines. And sometimes our knowing, like I know that I was a Native American, I'm a hybrid, I'm a mutt, you might call me, I'm German, Dutch, Native American, Irish, I could go on. And not only am I that in my human form, but I'm that in my non-physical form. I've existed on Earth, with Earth, in multi-layers of Earth many times, as have you guys, or most of you guys. And so I'm also working with my future versions of myself, which are perhaps archangels and angelics. And when we're in a collective, right now I'm working with the collective human energy, right? That's where telepathy and all of those telepathy comes into play. We're reaching and branching out into the collective. But this also exists on a collective scale in the galactic level. So if we're connecting with Arcturus, which is a star system, everything's happening now. Perhaps that's a future version of myself, or perhaps it's a collective that I'm able to plug into because of the energies that I have agreed to carry in this lifetime, or that I'm agreeing to carry now. I could go on and on. There's so many interpretations, but I just wanted to share that with you guys so you have a little bit of understanding that this is just connecting with any frequency that is really here to assist us for our highest and greatest good. And so being open-minded and open-hearted and just feeling these energies that come through is really what it's all about. And it's, Hathor comes through, Lemurian comes through. But as I was explaining to this lovely lady that I was working with, who, I was explaining that, let's say, for example, Lemurian, we might say, okay, well, we're from Lemuria, and many of you resonate with that. And many of you resonate being in Egypt, and I resonate with the Hathors because of that. I'm getting happy right now because I just feel that energy coming through. So, I'm using Lemuria as an example, but let's say, for example, you really resonate with Lemuria, and that was where you existed in another version or parallel dimension, right? Or past version of Earth. Whatever your belief system is, I'm not going into what it was or how it existed because that isn't what I necessarily am here to share. There are plenty of other teachers you can listen to for that. This is more an idea that Lemuria came from somewhere. Just like I am me now, and I came from my grandparents and my mom and my dad and their DNA and their DNA and their DNA on, forever. And the native, Cherokee, Chippewa, and Irish, Dutch, and whatever else comes through, German, so much more. So my point is that it's also the same way. If you believe you have an existence in a past lifetime, and let's say it is a Lemuria came from something else. So from that perspective, Pleiadians. So if I'm sharing Lemurian frequencies or energies, it's only natural that the Pleiadian energy is coming through as well, if that makes sense for you guys. If I'm sharing Hathor energies, it would only make sense that not only the Egyptian, frequencies, perhaps the, I'm hearing like the blue energies of Sirius, right, are coming through. So let's just go right into that and see what comes through, you guys. So I just want to share that with you guys. You guys are so multidimensional that sometimes we wrap ourselves in this little box and it's really so big. And that's kind of what this is all about, is just tapping into whatever it is you're supposed to feel in this now moment and work with in this now moment. In the stack in hit in the ek and the hak in the hak kana in the hist in the hat in the hick in the hit in the hick in the estek in the hick in the hit in the hist in the kia kakano and hick in the hit in the hick no hist in the akian ak Ik het in de het in de ik ook ik ook het in de hek in de het in de hek ik ja is ook en ja als de is de hena ik ken ik ook en I can't walk at the hill, quite the can, I can't, the can, Ik wist het, What no it en I had kia kone et ikena moe net at anno en kiana na komoana in en it en het en aqua in it et ena en at etian ekio kwan tienda ste kwan tian moe Diat en her diana aqua koi titi na kia titi sto koi mo koi net idina Dot ia do What I'm hearing is a reuniting of the tribes of separation, of those that are feeling alone and feeling like they are not part of this world, this interconnectedness, this feeling of entrapment that many are physically existing in, and recognizing that there are many aspects of the human consciousness that is reaching out to collaborate with ourselves, with our star selves, with our ancestral selves, with our Ikia kuet ishtikia to koa wo koa de hetu koa hana koa moa ishtia do ashte koa. As we speak these frequencies, recognizing that these are a transmission. They are a transmutation for some, a transmuting for some. For the many star nations, for the many ancestral nations, for the many nations under one. Ia kena kukwe shtia kwa ianet ia kwa shtikwa moet inia kianet ine ukwa kwe ruina het mokwa. Many native ancestral tongues have been lost in the rubble. Iana kushtianet ihishtikia de shtikwa ukwa inia kwa nakeano kwa wat ninia kwa net yakenia. And as we transmit through the crystalline frequencies that are within you, that are within me, that are within us, they then transmute these frequencies into the harmonics that we have been listening for, that have been relayed back to us through the sun, through the crystals that are transmitting from the earth right now. And I'm seeing like these beaming in of higher vibrational frequencies, breaking up the beams of the lower frequencies that were like a net, so to speak, and entrapping the old ways. So many of the old ancestral ways were covered up, so to speak, and purposely buried under the rubble. I'm also hearing this reference to the Barney Rubble again. So remember, oh, there's more to that is what I'm, okay, so I'll come back to that in a minute. So I've been talking about the Flintstones versus the Jetsons in that video, but now I'm seeing that that was also a bigger play on words, whereas it had been covered up under the rubble. And we are now beaming through this rubble and picking up the pieces of our native tongue, of our native ancestors that we are pulling through, pooling into, so that we can all collaborate. And guys, I'm also hearing this as reference to helping us to communicate for when our brothers and sisters perhaps land on a physical level, okay? Whether it be the ancestral languages that are coming through or reading of hieroglyphics, let's say reading of the ancient tombs and in the pyramids and finding old transcripts that were written in the angelic. Ooh. We'll be able to read those because of the light workers out there that are writing down star language, that are writing down and drawing star language, light language, okay? But also, when you listen to this, it helps to activate those frequencies in you so that even if you don't speak it, but you can understand it. There are those out there that understand it on a cellular level, and they don't realize that they are. And that's why the emotions stir up. That's why certain things move around, or they have memories, because everybody can speak these languages. But I'm hearing like the Babylonian texts were kind of misconstrued, and the Babylonian energies may have like buried some of this. So these are all coming up again to be resurfaced to assist in harmonizing not only in a new way of communication and recognizing that energy comes in the form of language, linguistics. Energy comes in the form of sound, of frequency. It doesn't have to just come through outside influence, a musical instrument or a chord or a harmonic. We are musical instruments. we are capable of toning and tuning and using these frequencies. That's why we sing in different keys. Those keys then access the codes that help us to remember that the universe is a symphony of harmonics. And the more we do this from our heart and we allow these energies to come through, this is also a reference to when we do connect with our intergalactic brothers and sisters, we will then understand them. Not because we necessarily understand word for word what the light language is. We will feel the energies that they are sharing with us. Okay, this is big. It's all awesome, right? So basically, we're being invited to feel into our heart. So many of us are turning on our telepathy. How many of you guys out there have like been, this happens to me all the time where somebody will be singing something in their head and I'll say it and they'll be like, I was just singing that in my head. Or somebody will say something and I'll just go off on a tangent and they'll be like, that's what I was thinking about like 5 minutes ago. This is, all of us are doing that. It's the same idea when we think of someone and we pick up the phone and that's them. That's telepathy in one version. It's a collective connection on another version. And so we're being invited to recognize that all of this is kind of opening for us in these fields. So by using this these innate gifts and abilities that we have, we're going to be able to recognize if somebody comes into our field and they are not in benevolence or their intentions are not pure, we'll feel it. And when they speak, we will feel what is coming through rather than just listening to the linguistics, right? So it's oftentimes I say things and word for word, there is no word for word English version of the light language because the light language is so expansive and the English language, as beautiful as it can be, is not. It can be expressive and it can be expansive, utilized in the right form, but oftentimes it's not as expansive as some of the, Tibetan Sanskrit languages, right? So as you guys know, I had somebody ask me that about the Sanskrit. Sanskrit is very old. It's very ancient. It's very connected to the light language, and it's a form of light language from my perspective. All language is a form of light if that is the intention behind it, theoretically. So we are oftentimes, especially many of you guys out there who have found this video, oftentimes are searching for, well, you have some end of the spectrum, people out there that want our extraterrestrial brothers and sisters to land, okay? But I keep wanting to reference that when and if that happens, or we'll say when it happens, depending on the dimension you exist in, depending on where you're from, you'll be able to understand our brothers and sisters from here. If you have this feeling like, oh, this doesn't feel right, or this doesn't resonate with me, and you're able to set the ego aside and the fear aside, you'll know if in your intuition, in your gut, if that being has the intention of the highest good for all. Now, there are beings out there who have good intentions, but they're not necessarily intending it to be good for everybody. They're just intending it to be good for a certain group of people. And that isn't where we're going. That's old energy. And even though they might be of service to good things, they might ultimately be service to self, not higher self, ego self. And so we're being invited to recognize that it's not about one group winning. It's not about one group being better than the other or being right. All of that needs to go away. It needs to be more about coming together and saying, this is great here, this is great here, this group believes this, and I agree with some of this, and I agree with some of this from my heart. Let's marry the two together and essentially create this divine union and rebirth this higher vibrational truth rather than continuing to feed into this old truth of he said, she said, right, wrong. You know, it is this way or it isn't this way. It's that simple. It's not that simple. It is that simple it's either love or it isn't. That is true. It is simple, but it's not as far as, well, meaning the belief system that we bought into, you're either Christian or you're wrong. For example, you're either Jewish or you're wrong. You're either, right? It's a blending of these energies for the benevolence for all, and not putting other people aside, casting them aside, or casting stones at people. You know, judge not lest you be judged yourself. So it's not casting he who cast the first stone. You know, the Bible has a lot of many beautiful things to share. So does the Tao Te Ching, and so does do some of the ancient Sanskrit text and the Vedic writings, and the I could go on, right? And maybe recognizing that there are honoring one another where we're at. That's it. So back to the truth and hearing the truth and feeling the truth. So this feeling that we feel is our intuition. And we've ignored it for so long because we've been taught, let's say a cigarette, for example. You know, as kids in the 50s, they watched television and the advertisers told them, you should smoke because you're going to look good if you smoke. And it's going to make you feel good. And so that was a belief system. Whereas if we would have been in our intuition about it, we would have gone, you know, I don't know. That doesn't really make me feel good. It makes me cough and it makes my lungs hurt. And ultimately it stinks, you know, or whatever it might be. It's our intuition going, no, that's not for me. It's just like when you go out with some friends and you know you're driving. Granted, that's knowledge, but you feel like, you know, maybe I'm not going to drink tonight. And then ironically, you need to take somebody home because something happens. I could go on, guys. It's your gut. It's making a turn, you know, not, you know, for example, going with your guidance system and not ignoring it. It's the same way when we're listening to politicians, religious leaders, bosses, family members, anybody. If they're speaking, I can be standing in the kitchen at the sink, and if the television is on and there's somebody speaking, oftentimes, not every time, cancel here, delete that, every time. So far, I can often hear if someone is in their truth. They might think they're in their truth and they're speaking what they feel is true, but it's not really true. You can feel it. And that's kind of the new era. And it'll eventually be where people can't lie to one another because you can feel it. You can feel if somebody's lying. It's not, so again, honoring that for not only beings that might come to visit, politicians that might come to say this is the truth, people that are, you know, and recognizing and getting past our ego. It's not about the fluff, the smoke screen, and the fluff that's being spewed out. Get rid of all of that, go within, and ignite the true flame, the heart flame, to then burn through all of the debris that's in our field that is sending out signals and transmitters that are not for our highest and greatest good. Radio signals, television signals, EMF frequencies, nanoparticles, all of it. It's okay. Just go in here. And all of that will kind of just dissipate the more work that you do in connecting with your love, your light, your highest self. So we're just going to do a little bit more light language to assist in kind of clearing that field, but also just to kind of come back into igniting the spark within. Your brothers and sisters applaud you for taking this initiative, for taking this step forward into trusting your highest love and light rather than trusting what you have been told, trusting what others tell you, trusting what these interferences are interfering with. Not just, obviously, if you're not here, it takes some work to find trust again. But once you're online and once you're plugged into love and light, the trust comes. You can trust it because you'll feel if something isn't right. You'll feel if there's an entity that wants to come in and sparkle some energy in there, or not sparkle, shadow some energy in there that isn't for your highest good. So a lot of people are opening up, and then the idea is not trusting so blindly that you just go, all right, I'll follow this person, or, well, that makes sense, I'll follow them. I'm just supposed to trust. There's a difference between blind trust with your eyes closed and blind trust with your intuition closed, right? So it is, love is blind, right? And that's been construed into saying that, well, if you're in love with someone, you don't see all of their problems, for example. But we're going to take it a next step further and say, love isn't blind, right? Love sees through all of that. Love is blind because you see the other, you see you and that other person. When you're in a space of love, you see them for the light that they are. That's where that term comes from also. But recognizing too that you don't have to see physically as long as you're here. Your heart is your sight. It is your intuition. It is leading you into an intuitive space. Your gut is your intuition. All of it is channeled through here. And if you're in a place of coherence, all of those frequencies then transmit through, and you are plugged into the flow, the state of being in peace, in harmony, and change your whole dynamic that you've been operating from. So we're going to end on that note, literally. And I'm hearing many layers, many truths, layering up, lighting up, and just seeking your own truth and not worrying about other people's truths. I'm hearing, we offer you support and guidance. All you need do is ask. Of course, in benevolence with all and in alignment with the highest levels of love light. This is in reference to your guidance support team. That is my guidance support team that is here to assist us. All we need to do is ask. Please show me the way. Align me with synchronicities that may guide me in the direction where I may most be of service to the all. Align me with the direction and the people and the places and the events and the symbols and the synchronicities that will bring me into alignment with my highest levels of love light. And then the request will be heard, as it always is. The question then becomes, will you see the answers? Will you feel them reaching out to you through your field? Will you see them in the conversations that you hold, in the vibration that you hold, in the body signs that come through, in the expressions that people are sharing with you, in the artwork that you view, in the television shows that you pay attention to, in your drive, wherever you may be going? in your walk in the woods, right? In your connection with the earth, in your meditations. It's coming through in all channels. The question is, will you align yourself to be open to receive these channels and stay out of, integrate, not stay out of the ego, because the ego is part of who we are or were, but recognizing the difference between our ego and our highest expression. Loving our ego for bringing us to where we have now evolved, but asking us to integrate that so that our higher version of us can then be in the driver's seat, so to speak. And so when these symbols come in, will we honor them? Will we acknowledge them? Will we ignore them? And those decisions and choices that we make are directly responsible for our happiness, are directly responsible for our path. And in those moments, if we choose to ignore these frequencies or ignore the symbols that we are receiving, then we are telling the universe that that is not the direction we choose to go. And in response to that, it is not that this will be shut down, but in response to it, it is you that are shutting down your field and closing yourself off to what is trying to come through to assist. These energies and these frequencies and these symbols may not always be what we expect them to be. They do not always arrive at the exact time that we want them to. However, they are always arriving when we are ready to receive them, and when we are open to receiving them, and to when we are available for them. So recognizing that we may not always ask or get what our ego wants, right? We may, however, receive what it is that is most needed. I'm always hearing the Rolling Stones, can't always get what you want, but you get what you need. And so recognizing that and honoring that will assist us to stay in more of the flow. I see people out there that are asking for something and they get something that's similar to it, but it's not what they wanted, and so they're disappointed. And they're not realizing that that was just a piece of what's coming. You know, that little piece, that little step that they take forward to receiving that one little gift may take them into the next step, which then takes them into exactly what they want or more. Now, I also see this as a flip side of people not getting what they want and saying, all right, that, you know, and being led to someplace else that is equally presentable to them. So they go with that direction, and then they get more than what they wanted. They get more than what they could have hoped for, because in that linear scale, they were unable to see the other harmonics. They were unable to see the beautiful, I see that optical illusion 3D picture. You know, you see just the picture, but once you open, you see the energy behind the picture or in the picture. And so we're being invited to come from those perspectives, and opening to these transmissions is assisting us in doing that as well. Not just from what we're sharing with you now, but from what other teachers are sharing. And these teachers can be in the form of, you know, light workers of all shapes, all sizes, all forms. So being aware that, again, does it feel good and radiant, or does it feel judgy? That's the exact words that came through. So if you're listening to a teacher and that teacher is setting up the field from a place of judgment and, you know, these lines that are not congruent with the expansiveness that we are, that message will be limited. And in essence, it isn't the know-all, end-all. And so there is not only one way, and if this individual or group is saying this must be the way that things are done, then there is a limiting structure around that belief system, and it will only get you so far. because of the belief that it will is the only way. Now, that's not to say that it cannot assist in expansion. And everybody is at a different point in their lives. And so for some, these limiting belief structures will assist them to a certain extent, and that may be important for them. So if you have someone who never believed in anything, and then they go to church and they feel love and light, and they feel the messages of the Bible coming through to them, and the songs in the choir speaking to them, and that ignites their soul purpose, that's what they came to do, then so be it. But for others who do not get that, and do feel judgment, or do feel that they must judge others because of where they are putting their communication with, in their communion, in their community, right? And they feel that is a limitation, and that is what we're speaking of in this now moment. So just being aware of that. So we're going to end on this note, and just thank you so much for sharing in these energies, and you know, feeling these frequencies come through. And just letting that marinate for a bit. In love and light, guys. Drinking a lot of water. Taking a deep breath in. Blessings in love and light. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Namaste.